Hi guys, my name is Alessandro Mastroianni. I'm a composer and sound designer. Welcome to my studio. Today we're going to explore together Krotos Audio Reformer Pro. Reformer Pro is a really cool and unique sound design instrument that allows you to grab a bunch of pre-recorded audio files and perform them in real time through an audio input against the scene that you're trying to score or design. The workflow with Reformer Pro is really unique, extremely creative, and very fast. And today I have a scene here on my system that we're going to design together, and I'm going to guide you through the entire process. I really hope you'll enjoy it. Okay, the very first thing that I want to do with you before we even get into Reformer Pro is to watch the scene. It's a very short 20 seconds long scene. Let's have a look. Okay, you see this really cool scene of this android sort of waking up. I have a couple of marker tracks here in Nuendo, which is the DAW that I'm using today. I really like using a few marker tracks when I'm designing a scene. It kind of gives me an idea of the kind of sounds that I'm looking for. Here I started adding an ambience and some glass door sound for the glass door opening, and then I have this robotic arm movement that enters the body of the android, and then I'm gonna need some sounds for this keyboard. Then we have these computers over here crunching data, and we're gonna need some sounds for that. I thought here it would be cool to add a sound for this fingerprint of the android and the face lighting up, and then we have this final robotic arm pulling the android, and we're gonna need some movement for the android waking up, and you're gonna see how cool and fast it is to do with Reformer Pro. The way I did this is, since let's open Reformer Pro quickly. Here you have it. Reformer Pro works with an audio input, so you're gonna need to use some sound in that. This can be a production track, which makes designing stuff that has been recorded on set incredibly fast. It can be a live input like a microphone, which is what I've used today, or it can be really anything. It can be you singing into it or you making weird noises. It's super fun. So the way I did it is by having fun. I just used this microphone that I use for my voiceover. It's not a great mic at all, and I just watched the scene and spotted a few key moments that I thought would be fun to score with Reformer Pro. Now that you watched a few seconds of me being silly and making weird sounds, let me show you how I've used them in context. All those sounds are all over here, spread across the timeline, and I've used those to design those sounds. The first three tracks I've used to design the first movements of the robotic arm. It sounds like that. These are literally all coming from my voice. If I bypass Reformer, this is what you're left with. Just my voice with reverb. And what Reformer is doing, let's get into one instance. It's getting the audio input and is using it to trigger 4 categories of sounds. Any layer, you have 4 layers, and any layer you can add a library that you want. Here I've been using a lot of the Robotic Lifeform 2, which is a great Reformer Pro library by Soundmorph. So if we go here, for example, you get a bunch of sounds that have been triggered together by the audio input. So those are obviously pretty loud, and for each of them you can mute them. For example, if you find a sound that you don't like within this pool of samples, you can mute a couple of those. You can audition, you can even fine-tune the portion of the file that you want to use in that particular context, and you can use this XY pad to morph between those. Another cool thing that you can do with Reformer Pro is that you don't need to rely on the audio input to perform your sounds. Let me show what I've done over here. If we move to this scene, you have this fingerprint happening over here, and the android's head that gets lightened up. This needs to be pretty tightly synced to the scene, and so if you open over here these two tracks, you'll see a bunch of automation that I drew in. This is using Reformers Pro dynamic input. The way the dynamic input works is that you can layer in a few sounds exactly the same way I showed you before, and you can actually perform them from those sliders. And tweak a bunch of parameters. And so this is exactly what this is doing over here. You see how it's automated the amplitude and basically performing those sounds through the automation. So even more flexibility and different ways to design elements. Another thing that I think Reformer is great at is how fast it can handle revisions that you might get from a client. For example, here I was listening to this again, and here the robotic arm, I feel it has some sounds which a bit too electronic, and those come from one of the factory libraries, Electronic Pro, which is really cool, but I'm not sure it works in context. Think about a traditional post-production scenario. You would have a bunch of sounds, electronic sounds, and you would have to swap that entire palette of sounds for something else. Here you can just click on here and simply select another library. For example, why don't we layer in some more stuff from Robotic Lifeform, which I think it sounds really cool. Let's maybe try the high-tech one. Let's see what sounds you have in there. That sounds cool. And so we have the track soloed. And I feel this works better in context. Let's hear with everything on. Works much better, and you see how fast it is. Another cool thing that I want to show you is that you don't need to stick with the factory library, or not even with the other commercially available libraries at all. You can import your own files and make them into Reformer Pro libraries through the Analyzer tool. So, for example, I used exactly this to design one of the two doors. I have one sound arpand left and one sound arpand right. And on the right one, I wanted to change something that came from the left, and that it would be cool to layer in some elevator sounds that contain some mechanic for this sound. So, if we open Reformer Pro, you'll see that here I have a layer of elevators, which is one of the libraries that appear up here, but it's not a factory one. And the way I imported it, you can just click on the analysis tool, and you can either drop a folder here, you can just navigate to it. I have it here on my desktop. Elevators, you can open it, and you just need to tell Reformer which sample rate you want to use it at, say 48 kilohertz. You can even upload a custom thumbnail if you want. Create the library name. Creates it for you, done, and now you basically have it available in the libraries that are up here. Pretty cool. And here, if you want to listen to it, you have the doors with layered in sounds. Specifically, the sound that I layered in was this kind of screeching mechanism on the right channel, as we explained. So you'll see I basically pretty much built this entire sequence through Reformer. There are a couple of sounds that are just traditional linear sounds, like this keyboard one. The keyboard over here just some typing sounds, and this would have been a perfect job for a weaponizer, but this is a video about Reformer Pro, so we'll get into that later on. And one thing that I really wanted to add was some sort of room tone. I felt that even after all my sound design was lacking some environmental sound, and so I took concept and I designed a ambient using the granular synthesis over here. I imported a couple of samples. Here's the ambience solo track, and did some very slow automation. Let's hear the final result. Okay, that was it. I really hope you had fun. I had loads of fun designing this scene. It was also incredibly fast. I really hope I managed to show you how fast and creative the workflow with Reformer Pro can be. Really hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.